or at least it's a generic description. I don't know a proper word, but I described them as bulbs and switches, and I sent it to my freight forwarder to present it to the customs. I thought that if they feel that this is not allowed without a license, they'll simply say that they won't do. In fact, this is my main grievance, main grief, that the undercover agent collected the payment, the undercover agent delivered the goods, the undercover agents were watching each movement, they were waiting for me, they trailed me. At any single stage, they should have simply told me that, look, we feel that you're going to break the law. Why don't you take an export license? But they in fact, they don't have much job, I believe, so they try to encourage people to commit crime and then make a big propaganda that they have all the laurels for them. And it is typical of Americans in that they always exaggerate things. If I really wanted to smuggle it out, there were a handful of switches. And I can suggest, as a freight forwarder, I can suggest 1,000 ways to smuggle them out. I could have put it in somebody's briefcase who could have flown without any problem. But I never felt that I'm smuggling out something. I'm not trying to say that I'm innocent. I did commit a crime. I knew that this needed an export license, but I never knew its usage till I was arrested. So I was used as a scapegoat.
Do you think it's possible you were perhaps used also by people back in Pakistan? Do you think it's possible? Definitely not.
Definitely not. There's no chance.
VAID's earnestness in presenting his case was appealing. He seemed to lack the guile associated with a foreign agent. He had retained 3 attorneys in Houston. William Burge was in charge of the criminal aspects of the case.
One of the amazing things about this case is the little press attention it's generated here and around the country, although it is, as you said, it's big news in Pakistan and India. Have you had any contact with local media and local television at all, significantly on this case?
No, I haven't, but you have to understand that there was a gag order entered prior to indictment in this case, just a few days after the arrest, to prevent me or anybody else connected with the case from talking to the media about the case.
How did the gag order originate?
It was at my request.
Why did you do it?
I did it after CBS News nationally contacted me and wanted to interview me concerning the case. I didn't want to stir up publicity about the case. I was afraid it would adversely affect my client at a jury trial.
Why do you think the government went along?
I think the government, I'm speculating at this point, I think the government went along because we are friendly with Pakistan. This case apparently was embarrassing to the government of Pakistan, and they didn't want any more publicity than was necessary about the case.
Do you have any real basis for saying that? Let me ask this question very toughly, or is it just a feeling? What made you think the government wanted not to embarrass Pakistan in this case?
It's based on statements that were made to me by the prosecutors, not direct statements to that effect, but their reaction to my motion for a gag order was, hey, that sounds okay. We're not interested in having a lot of publicity about this case either.
Our belief of the case is that VAID was working directly or had some direct connection to the Pakistani government and was doing what he was doing on behalf of the officials in Pakistan involved in the nuclear bomb business. Admittedly, there was no evidence like that generated in the case. Am I correct?
That's correct. There wasn't any evidence at all that he was acting as an agent. First, they suspected that, but they never had any proof to that effect.
Did you ever question what he was doing?
Did I have any questions of him, you mean?
Sure.
Well, he never said to me that he was acting as an agent for the government. He owns a freight forwarding company. He said that he was filling an order, as it turns out, for the University of Islamabad.
Fair enough. And the government absolutely did not begin to prove its case with, in terms of connecting him to anything at all untoward in Pakistan. And so it became a straightforward issue. Okay, it could be we're all wet too on this.
Federal agents thought enough of the case against NAZIR VAID to spend 9 months working undercover. The investigation began in Massachusetts, where VAID tried to buy the Critrons directly from the manufacturer, EG&G. The firm was suspicious of VAID and the size of the order. It tipped off the government. VAID was followed to Houston, and he was under surveillance when he placed the same order through a local distributor.
Is it possible we're all wrong about this, that all of us are wrong, that VAID
really was just a legitimate businessman trying to cut a corner here and there, and maybe he wasn't as wise about the laws as he should have been, or as careful or prudent, and he took a little bit of a chance, and that Pakistan really just wanted them for medical research, and that that, as he told us, that we're exaggerating everything. He said, you Americans always exaggerate everything. Is it possible?
Yes, it's distinctly possible. However, at the point where he was told that he couldn't get them legally, I think a businessman would have backed off at that point. He was told at one time that a license was required by a manufacturer who was very upfront with him about it, and he went out of his way not to obtain a license that he knew perfectly well was needed. He was given several opportunities at the time of shipment to declare exactly what was in his package. Had he done so, he would have again been informed that a license was required. But again, he did not do so. So he had several opportunities to be straight with us, to tell us what he was sending out, and to obtain the proper licensing.
You don't think marking them as bulbs/switches does the job? Is that it?
No, it does not.
By law, VAID could not be arrested until he attempted to ship the Critrons overseas. His customs broker cooperated with the government in the investigation. Tell me what you know about this case and how you got drawn into it.
Well, we received quite a number of months ago a phone call from the customs officials that he was suspected of smuggling high technology items out of the United States. We were told whenever he would make contact to let the customs officials know, which we did. According to the shipping listing, and when I spoke to him, he only declared or stated that these were office items. They were stapling guns, file folders, you know, things of no type of suspicious nature.
50 bulbs/switches.
50 bulbs/switches.
Did he do anything out of the ordinary?
VAID raised one strange question. If U.S. Customs would open up any traffic leaving the country. And I just turned around and told him if there's no suspicion, no, go ahead, seal the box. It was done.
And he did seal it?
He did seal it, yes.
The federal prosecutor who prepared the case against VAID told the court a few days after the arrest that he strongly suspected that VAID was operating as a Pakistani agent. And yet, just before trial, the same prosecutor agreed to plea bargain and reduced the charges in the case. Don't you think this case is more important than it seems to be? Don't you think...
What do you mean by that?
I have a sense about it.
It's an important case. They're all important cases that we work down here. We shouldn't make more of it, on the other hand, than there really is there. It's a felony case in which a person was convicted of willfully exporting non-exportable merchandise, munitions. But the evidence was not there to support a theory, which I personally espoused early on, that this person was a spy or an agent of the Pakistani government. That evidence simply was not there.
Would it have been possible for you to insist that our government make a diplomatic note or protest or démarche to the Pakistani government and seek some information on what VAID was doing?
There was no thought about that, simply because that's beyond my power and authority as an assistant U.S. attorney. My duty here is to enforce federal criminal law. And the violation of federal criminal law was established from the time Mr. VAID had consigned these articles to shipment and put them into foreign commerce. Once he had done that without the requisite securing of a license, he violated the statute. That was our only instance. As far as everything else, finding out why they were to be purchased or their ultimate source use, that would all be in the nature of background. And obviously I have no authority to order anybody in the State Department or any other arm of the government to do anything in that regard. So the answer is no.
May I ask, did you at any point talk to the State Department about the case, or anybody anybody in Washington to get a sense of what they thought or where the case could go?
Was there contact with Washington in this case?
Of course there was input, yes.
Did you get a political sense about the case? Did you get a sense that, given everything, resolving the case speedily, resolving the case from the government's point of view, the Justice Department's point of view satisfactorily, was very important, and also with a minimum of external plus?
I did talk to people in Washington, yes, both in the State Department and the Department of Justice. They were of great help in the case, and they had a very great interest in it. But really that's about all I can say. You could go ask them as to what their feelings were. I can only tell you what my feelings are. And my feeling is that it is a case that we prosecuted because of the fact that it was a violation of law. We didn't prosecute it for any political motives, and we had no political intentions in seeking a quick disposition of the case.
It seems to me there's another greater issue here that somehow, that I don't see reflected in this case that much, which is that he wasn't just breaking a law. He was shipping back very sensitive equipment that probably, if the Customs Bureau had not intervened, may have been used in making an implosion device for a nuclear or hydrogen bomb. And that seems to me to be an enormously difficult factor. And to look at it just as, and maybe this is the journalist in me, to look at it just as a case of he broke the law and this is it, seems to me to fall short, if not of legal principles, which it certainly does not, of something else. Do you understand what I'm driving at?
I really don't, Mr. Hirsch. I don't understand that at all. What are you trying to...
I'm trying to say that the potential enormity of what he was doing, VAID, as an agent for somebody else, it seems to me is